What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Couple things to talk about today, including some Pokemon hype. Kojima talking a little bit about, well, hey, we might have a surprise for you guys for Death Stranding next year, and then Jeff Kaplan strangely just sitting on stream. Now, if you have not already subscribed, consider subscribing. We are shooting for 70,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so that's what, Sunday night at midnight. So we are shooting for that. We're about 1,500 or so subs away, and I think we can get there. But for today, guys, let's get started. So the Pokemon game for the Switch is coming out soonish. A lot of people are on the side of, we think it's coming out in 2018. Others are saying, nah, probably 2019 at some point. I do think it has to come out in the holidays, so I think it's either 2018 or late 2019 for that November, maybe early December release. I feel like they want it out sooner rather than later, especially after seeing that hiring, well, at least that job listing and posting from Creatures Inc. to help render different Pokemon and what appears to be Unreal Engine 4. Seems like they're even hiring on to help with this Pokemon project. And now we find out in Famitsu, they're going to spend this year coming up, 2018, to hype up Pokemon, saying, Happy New Year! In 2017, we were able to release Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and we express our deep gratitude to everyone who has been playing it. In 2018, we will still continue to hype up Pokemon, so please look forward to it. And this was from Kazumasa Awao on Game Freak. And yes, we know Game Freak is working on it heavily right now in some way, but by hyping it up, there's a couple ways I looked at this. I said, okay, I looked at this quote and I said, okay, there's a couple ways you can hype up a game. You can continuously talk about it by making the rounds to different press outlets and giving interviews and dropping tiny little, these little lines, these little hints. Or you can do things like show gameplay. You can do developer interviews. Or you can release different games in the series that have already been out, maybe re-releases, onto your platform of choice. In this case, the Switch. So I think it would be a great idea here, along with gameplay videos, some interviews, maybe go back and pick out some Pokemon games and release them on the Switch. We saw them do this with things like Pokemon Gold and Silver, for example, and I think that worked really well, not only to sell copies, but also help raise more awareness around Pokemon, maybe going back to get some of the older people who enjoyed it back then. Maybe they get a 3DS to play it and then they realize, oh, I'm about to try out this Ultra Sun and this Ultra Moon. I think it'd be a great idea to go back and get an older Pokemon game. I mean, you can get any, really, because there's none on the Switch now. You go back and get any of the older ones and bring them over. I do think it'd be a little harder to do the dual screen ones, although you could probably technically cut the Switch's screen in half, I guess, and do that. It is technically a touch screen, but either way, I think it'd be a great idea to go back, get another Pokemon game, and move it to the Switch. You can even get put red, yellow, and blue on there, and you will sell millions right away. So many people will buy that game. And I think that's a great idea. Obviously, the other thing is we could start getting gameplay footage of some kind. I do think we're going to see it in this January press conference coming up from Nintendo, this Direct. And I'm really excited, especially if they are shooting for that holiday 2018 release, which means a year from now, we'll be playing Pokemon on the Switch if that is what they want to go with. I do think they know they need something big for 2018 to help momentum push forward. Nothing's bigger than Pokemon on Nintendo's platforms. I mean, I know there's Mario, sure. There's Zelda, Pokemon. Pokemon is a better seller than either of those. They've been selling the same game forever. It keeps selling 15 million copies, so this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this year to see what they have for us, and I'm crossing my fingers for some kind of older Pokemon game being moved over to the Switch, maybe with online capabilities, so here's hoping. Next up, let's talk about Death Stranding and Kojima. Of course, this is one of the weirdest, most mysterious projects alongside of Pokemon, although at least we have seen, in this case, some gameplay cinematics, even though they did say some of it was kind of in-game. Like, there was a part where Norman Reedus was, like, asleep on the ocean floor. It sounds weird to say that, but he's technically asleep on the ocean floor. That part was technically playable. You could, according to Kojima, on stage when he was talking at PSX, you could technically move that camera around the controller and kind of explore. So they at least have that much done. But they did drop an interesting quote in some interviews done by Dengeki PlayStation. And this was in their magazine saying, development on Death Stranding is going well enough that Sony told us, we have never before seen a game being created at such a fast pace. We are planning an announcement that will further surprise everyone in 2018. It's going to further surprise people. Now, there's a couple things that can surprise us. More about the plot, because according to Mr. Cerny, after like 4 or 5 hours, everything makes perfect sense. Okay, we'll see about that one. They could talk about gameplay, of course, show that, because we still don't really know what this game is in terms of, well, gameplay or control or anything like that. or they could hit us with an earlier than expected release date, like a 2018 release date. That would absolutely surprise everyone, because it's interesting that he talks about how fast the game's being built, and then talks about a big surprise in 2018 that no one will really expect. And to me, if you're making this game that fast, a 2018 release date would surprise everyone. Even an early 2019 release date would surprise and shock everyone to the point where, oh, a year from now we could be playing this game. That would be pretty cool. I would like that. And that wouldn't just surprise me. That would shock me outright if they could get this game out in 2018 or even early 2019 at this point. I mean, especially if it's out, if Death Stranding's out before Last of Us 2, I would be surprised. I'd be shocked. And that's saying something, because Last of Us 2 is probably going to be a late PS4 game. It'll probably come out as the system's winding down. So we'll see. We just got to keep an eye on Death Stranding. Maybe E3 will get some big surprise announcement that could either change the game up with some gameplay or even let us know when we can start actually playing it. Next up, let's talk about a pretty cool ROM hack here, and that's to do with Super Mario Land 2. Now, you may have played it like I did on the original brick Game Boy, or even if you played it on like a Game Boy Color, you didn't really get the full spectrum of colors or anything. It looked pretty basic. It didn't look that fancy. Well, a ROM hacker has decided, let's actually add the full palette of colors and turn it into a DX game. They're actually going to be inflating its size due to all of these colors and the large palette that they're going to be using to 8 megabits, which does turn it into a DX game. Remember how we had like the Super Mario Bros. Deluxe or DX, and it was in like that Game Boy Color only cartridge? That's because it was a little larger and it used the full palette of colors. Now, this was done by a ROM hacker, like I said, named Torres, and you could play it now, actually. It's fully ready to be downloaded, and you just kind of inject it into ROM, and you can play it on, well, anything that you usually play your ROMs on, whether it's a computer or a Raspberry Pi or anything like that. I think people even have like Game Boy EverDrives. I believe people do have those now. So you can play it a number of different ways. I think this is really cool. I've actually checked it out yesterday, and it plays well. It looks great too, honestly. Even if you play it on your phone, while I'm not a big fan of using touchscreen controls, I play it no problem on like your computer or anything, and it's pretty cool. This is also the first game where Wario showed up, so that was kind of neat too. I remember they also put him in the third one. I think it was Wario, like Wario Land made him the protagonist. But it's pretty cool to see this, and hey, if you're a fan of any of the older games and this was a game that you really liked when you were younger, you can kind of see it in a whole new light now in full color. Next up, let's talk about some really weird and odd news. I feel like it was maybe just done as a publicity thing, but well, that has to do with Jeff Kaplan sitting on camera on stream for nearly 10 hours. It was like 9 hours and 54 minutes. This was on Christmas Eve. He sat next to a fireplace, and that was about it. They did all these little things in between where he ate cookies, unwrapped a present, even got hit in the head with a boom mic. But this is, of course, Jeff Kaplan, who's part of the Overwatch team, director of like the Overwatch team and everything. And this seemed to be something where they just wanted to have some fun. Now, some sites have pointed out that it seems to be a series of clips kind of put together. I think those are mostly eagle-eyed fans that figured that one out, but it's a long stream. There's almost 10 hours, and they just threw all these little things in, and it accrued like 39,000 people at one time watching this. Pretty much took over Twitch. It was just him sitting next to a fireplace, not saying a word. It was kind of eerie, kind of creepy at first. But a lot of people were watching because they thought, hey, maybe they'll announce something. Maybe we'll get a new hero or new modes or something, because they were all kind of on like the Christmas or the holiday event that was going on. And hey, he shows up Christmas Eve and he's sitting there. Everyone's maybe sitting there waiting and like, oh, maybe he's getting ready for the stream to start. They never said anything, and they wait. An hour goes by, and he eats some cookies. An hour goes by, he gets hit with a boom mic, and it was very, very odd, and nothing actually came of it. So I don't know if they were just seeing, hey, what will our fans do? Will they sit here and watch us? Or maybe it was kind of a thing you could do where you can leave like a fireplace on your TV while you're hanging out with friends and family. I guess you can leave a fireplace and Jeff Kaplan up on your TV. It looks like a fireplace with him sitting there next to it. So, you know, not creepy at all to have at your holiday party for Christmas Eve, but very weird, very odd, and I would like them to say something about what this was, but I don't expect them to. It's a great publicity stunt because everyone's talking about it, now trying to figure it out. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I believe there will be some kind of compilation brought out by fans where they kind of clip it up and kind of put it all together just to see any time he actually did something rather than just sat in his seat and stared at the camera. Then our last bit of news, let's talk about Super Smash Bros. Melee. We all know Melee. It was a good GameCube game, great GameCube game, to the point where, well, the fans just won't leave it alone. And now a modification for Super Smash Bros. On the Wii U, or Smash Bros. 4, as some people like to call it, is now entered a playable beta to where it turns most of the mechanics on the Wii U version into more like the Melee version of Smash Bros. And of course they gave it a super original name, Smash Bros. 4 Melee HD. But you can see it here, and it does include, according to them, things like wave dashing, crouch canceling, and other techniques that were mostly used in the GameCube's version of Smash Bros. Of course, Smash Bros. Melee, and they're going to do things like change up all the physics and everything. Now, of course, Melee, according to a lot of people, is a lot quicker and it's a lot heavier. But they just can't, the community just can't seem to leave Melee behind. They'll continue to mod systems, mod games to make sure that Melee continues on, I guess, in the competitive scene. Now, I have talked to some people who really like Smash Bros. And they said, hey, well, some people will play it competitively, but for the most part, most people will stick to the official releases. This will be something that I think friends and stuff will play at their houses, and I'm sure there will be some competitions run on it, but because it is kind of dependent on a modding group to continue releasing versions of it, and you got to be up to date, it might not be something you go to a standard competition and just see, but hey, it's still cool, I guess, to have Melee for all the people who really like it. It's just not going away. I don't know. Maybe whenever we see it show up on the Switch, maybe if the Switch is never modded, I guess at that point, well, it's left behind. But at least people look like they're trying really hard to mod the Switch to the point where you can run this kind of stuff. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm more curious, like I said, if the Switch is never modded, will Melee finally be left behind because there's no way to bring it forward? Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If not, hit the dislike button. Guys, leave a bunch of comments down below about Pokemon on the Switch. There's a lot of talk about it right now because we're winding into what we all believe to be the January Direct, where we think we're going to see something about it. And a lot of people are starting to think that, oh, maybe it will show up in 2018, which means we need to start seeing a landslide of information from them so we know what we're buying into. Generally, before Pokemon comes out, we almost always have a good idea as to what we're going to get, and this is one of the first times for Pokemon that we don't really know at all what's going to happen. It's kind of exciting, actually. I'm pretty happy that we don't even know if it's going to use the same battle system. That is exciting to see what's going to really show up at this Direct, and it makes me really look forward to it. So I'm hoping it's good, though. I'm hoping it doesn't turn off a lot of fans and ultimately damage that franchise, even though I do think Pokemon is just too big to damage it all. Also, let me know what you think about Kojima and Death Stranding. Do you think that surprise is just gameplay, or do you think a sooner than expected release date is on the horizon? And of course, let me know about Jeff Kaplan sitting in front of the camera for almost 10 hours doing really nothing. That's it for now, guys. I'll see you next time.